This entire situation, looking back, still feels like a dream, a surreal nightmare that played out in front of dozens of strangers. Was I wrong for the way I handled it? Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because honestly, I'm still reeling from the sheer audacity, the unbridled cruelty, and the ultimate, spectacular fall that my sister and mother orchestrated for themselves, all because they thought I was a nobody. Imagine standing there, in front of the culmination of years of relentless work, a dream brought to life, and having the two women who are supposed to love and support you block your path, sneering, mocking, and publicly humiliating you. They had no idea who they were talking to, not really. They saw only the shadow of the person they'd always dismissed, not the man who now held the keys to everything they coveted. It all started, I suppose, with my childhood, which was far from idyllic. My sister, Clara, was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our mother's eyes. She was beautiful, charming, and effortlessly popular. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, nerdy kid who preferred books and coding to social gatherings. My passion was always technology and business, and from a very young age, I was fascinated by how things worked, how empires were built. While Clara was out at parties, I was holed up in my room, teaching myself programming languages, reading biographies of successful entrepreneurs, and dreaming of a future where I wouldn't be invisible. My mother, bless her heart, always indulged Clara's every whim, showering her with expensive gifts, designer clothes, and unwavering praise. My achievements, no matter how significant to me, were met with a shrug or a dismissive, "That's nice, dear, but have you seen Clara's new car?" I learned early on that my value in their eyes was inversely proportional to Clara's perceived brilliance. It created a deep, seated insecurity, but also a burning ambition. I swore to myself that one day I would prove them wrong, not for their validation, but for my own sense of worth. After high school, I managed to get a partial scholarship to a decent university, supplementing it with a grueling schedule of part-time jobs. I worked harder than anyone I knew, often surviving on instant noodles and pure adrenaline. While Clara was enjoying a lavish university experience funded entirely by our parents, I was building a small but growing web development business out of my cramped dorm room. It was tough, isolating, and often lonely, but I was driven. I missed family gatherings, holidays, and countless opportunities for a social life because I was always working, always building. My mother would call occasionally, not to check on me, but to tell me about Clara's latest triumph, her new boyfriend, or her extravagant vacation. Each call was a reminder of the chasm that existed between us, a constant reinforcement of their perception of me as the struggling, uninteresting son. Clara, for her part, rarely bothered to contact me. When she did, it was usually to ask for a favor or to mock my choice of boring career. "Still coding away, little brother. Don't you ever want to have some fun?" she'd say, her voice dripping with condescension. Fast forward 10 years. My small web development business had exploded into a successful tech enterprise. I had taken risks, made smart investments, and worked myself to the bone. I diversified, pouring profits into various ventures, including real estate. One of my biggest and most ambitious projects was a luxury hotel in the heart of the city. I had envisioned it as a place where design, technology, and unparalleled service converged, a true testament to my vision and hard work. The construction took years, involved countless sleepless nights, and pushed me to my limits, but seeing it rise, floor by majestic floor, was an indescribable feeling. It was more than just a building. It was a symbol of everything I had overcome. During this period of intense growth and success, I kept my distance from my family, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Their negativity and constant belittling were detrimental to my mental health and focus. I heard through the grapevine that Clara was struggling. Her dream job hadn't panned out, her relationships were unstable, and she was constantly asking our parents for money. My mother, surprisingly, never reached out to me for financial help for Clara, likely because she still believed I was the struggling, unremarkable son she always thought I was. She probably thought I couldn't afford to help, even if I wanted to. I had intentionally kept my true financial status under wraps, partly to protect myself from their endless demands, and partly because I knew they wouldn't believe it anyway. They were too invested in their narrative of my failure. The grand opening of the Zenith, as I called my hotel, was a highly anticipated event in the city. I had poured my heart and soul, along with a significant portion of my fortune, into every detail. It was sleek, modern, incredibly luxurious, and equipped with cutting-edge smart technology. I had planned a soft opening for a select group of investors, business partners, and key employees before the public launch. It was a momentous occasion for me, a validation of every sacrifice I had made. The day of the soft opening, I arrived early, wanting to oversee every last detail. The lobby was gleaming, flowers were arranged impeccably, and the staff, impeccably dressed, were buzzing with controlled excitement. I walked through the grand entrance, feeling a surge of pride when my phone rang. It was my mother. "Darling," she began, her voice unusually sweet, "Clara and I are in the city today, doing some shopping. We thought we might pop by that new hotel, the Zenith, you know. It looks rather grand. Perhaps we could even grab a coffee there. I heard it's quite exclusive." A knot formed in my stomach. They had no idea I owned it. Or maybe they did, and this was some twisted test. I had never told them the full extent of my involvement, only that I had invested in a new property. I hesitated, then decided to play along. I wanted to see how this would unfold. "Oh, really, Mom, it's a soft opening today, very exclusive. I'm actually quite busy," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Nonsense," she chirped. "A quick peek won't hurt. We're just around the corner. We'll see you there in 10 minutes. Before I could argue, she hung up. My heart pounded. This was it, the moment of truth. I quickly briefed my head of security, a formidable man named Marcus, about my family possibly showing up, and asked him to observe the situation, but not to intervene unless absolutely necessary. I wanted to see how far they would go. I wanted to see their true colors, unfiltered. I retreated to a discreet corner of the lobby, pretending to check something on my tablet, but keeping a close eye on the entrance. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up, and out stepped my mother and Clara. They were dressed to the nines, Clara in a ridiculously expensive designer dress that I knew our mother had probably bought her, and my mother in her usual opulent attire. They walked with an air of entitled confidence, scanning the magnificent lobby with wide eyes, clearly impressed despite themselves. Their eyes met mine for a fleeting second, and I saw a flicker of surprise, quickly replaced by a smirk on Clara's face. They then made their way towards the check-in desk, where a polite receptionist greeted them. I couldn't hear their exact conversation, but I saw Clara pointing around, talking animatedly, and my mother nodding along, occasionally glancing in my direction with a look that was a mix of disdain and pity. They then walked towards a small rope-top section near the main entrance, where a few VIP were mingling. I watched, my blood beginning to boil, as Clara suddenly stopped, turned, and then deliberately positioned herself directly in front of the main entrance, effectively blocking it. My mother joined her, standing shoulder to shoulder, both of them facing me, a knowing, condescending smile playing on their lips. This was the moment, the exact scenario I had both dreaded and, in a twisted way, anticipated. I started to walk towards the entrance, towards them, my pace deliberate. As I approached, Clara put out her hand, palm up, stopping me dead in my tracks. Her smile widened, revealing a set of perfectly white teeth. "Well, well, little brother," she purred, her voice carrying just enough to be heard by the few guests nearby. "Fancy seeing you here. You know, this place looks far too expensive for your usual haunts. Are you sure you're not lost?" My mother chimed in, her voice a hushed but cutting whisper. "Darling, please don't embarrass us. You know we don't associate with people who can't afford to be here. This is a five-star establishment, not one of your cheap little internet cafes." Clara then leaned in closer, her voice laced with mockery. "Honestly, you look so out of place. This isn't one of your tech conventions. Why don't you just turn around and leave before you cause a scene? You're ruining our sophisticated afternoon." She then laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound that cut through the elegant atmosphere of the lobby. My mother joined her, a quiet chuckle, nodding in agreement. They stood there, two formidable women, blocking my entrance to my own building, reveling in what they thought was my humiliation. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have walked away, swallowed the humiliation, or would you have stood your ground and exposed their cruelty? My face, I'm sure, was a mask of calm, though inside a tempest raged. Every slight, every dismissive comment, every instance of being overlooked and undervalued flashed through my mind. This wasn't just about a hotel entrance. It was about years of emotional abuse and their unwavering belief in my inferiority. I looked from Clara's triumphant sneer to my mother's pitying, yet equally contemptuous, gaze. The air around us crackled with unspoken tension. I took a deep breath, and then, slowly, deliberately, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my keycard. It wasn't just any keycard. It was the master key, a sleek black card with owner subtly embossed on it. I held it up, not dramatically, but with a quiet confidence that seemed to momentarily wipe the smiles from their faces. Clara's eyes narrowed, a hint of confusion flickering in them. "What is that, your library card?" she scoffed, trying to regain her composure. My mother, however, looked a little more uncertain, a faint frown creasing her brow. I ignored them both. Instead, I turned my head slightly, catching the eye of Marcus, my security chief, who had been observing the entire spectacle from a discreet distance. He was a large man, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, with an aura of quiet authority. He immediately understood. With a subtle nod from me, Marcus began to walk towards us, his footsteps echoing softly in the luxurious lobby. His approach was calm, unhurried, yet it carried an undeniable weight. As he drew closer, his presence alone began to shift the dynamics of the scene. Clara and my mother, engrossed in their taunting, hadn't initially noticed him. But as he loomed closer, they finally became aware of him. Clara's laugh died in her throat, and my mother's patronizing smile faltered. Marcus stopped directly behind my sister and mother, his towering figure casting a shadow over them. His voice was deep, resonant, and perfectly neutral, yet it carried an undercurrent of steel. "Excuse me, ladies," he said, and his voice made them both jump. They turned startled to face him. Before they could react, Marcus turned to me, a deferential, respectful look on his face. "Mr. Davies," he said, using my formal business name, "is everything all right here? Do you require any assistance?" The shift in their expressions was instantaneous and priceless. Clara's jaw literally dropped. My mother's eyes, which had been filled with condescension, now widened with dawning horror and disbelief. They looked from Marcus, who clearly treated me with the utmost respect, to me, standing calmly, holding the keycard. The realization began to dawn on them, slow and painful. "Mr. Davies," Clara stammered, her voice a thin, reedy whisper, a stark contrast to her earlier mockery. "What is he talking about?" My mother, usually so composed, looked utterly bewildered. I met Clara's gaze, then my mother's, and for the first time in my life, I saw genuine fear in their eyes, replacing the usual disdain. "Actually, Clara," I said, my voice low and steady, "this isn't my library card. It's the key to this establishment, and Marcus." I turned back to my security chief. "Yes, I do require some assistance. These two ladies are blocking the main entrance of my hotel and causing a disturbance. I believe they need to be escorted out." The words hung in the air, heavy and impactful. Clara gasped, a small choked sound. My mother's face went pale. Your hotel," she whispered, as if the words themselves were foreign to her. Clara, recovering slightly, tried to protest. "Don't be ridiculous. You own this. That's impossible. You're just trying to impress us with some stupid trick." I simply raised an eyebrow. "Is it, Clara? Is it a trick? Marcus, could you please confirm my identity for these guests?" Marcus nodded gravely. "Yes, Mr. Davies is the owner and CEO of this entire establishment, including the building and all its assets. He is also the founder of Davies Technologies, among other ventures." He then turned his full attention to Clara and my mother, his expression unwavering. "Now, ladies, I must ask you to leave the premises immediately. Your behavior is disruptive, and you are no longer welcome here." Clara looked like she had been slapped. Her eyes darted around the lobby, suddenly aware of the other guests who were now openly staring. Clearly having heard the entire exchange, the embarrassment was palpable. My mother, however, found her voice, though it was shaky. "Son, what are you doing? This is your mother, your sister. You can't possibly do this to us, Mother." I said, my voice devoid of emotion, "You just informed me that I shouldn't embarrass the family and that I couldn't afford to be here. You and Clara blocked my entrance and publicly mocked me. I'm simply ensuring that my hotel and its guests are not subjected to such unpleasantness. You made your choice the moment you decided to treat me like a pauper at my own front door." Marcus stepped forward, placing a firm, but not aggressive, hand on Clara's arm. "Ladies, if you do not comply, I will have to call the local authorities for trespassing." That was the final blow. The threat of police involvement in front of a luxury hotel, witnessed by strangers, was too much for their carefully constructed facades. Clara pulled her arm away, her face burning crimson. Her eyes filled with a mixture of rage and utter humiliation. "This is unbelievable," she hissed, though her voice lacked its earlier bite. My mother, tears welling in her eyes, stared at me, her expression a contorted mess of betrayal and disbelief. You always were a cruel child," she choked out, but her words sounded hollow, without their usual power. Marcus, without another word, guided them towards the exit. They walked in stunned silence, their heads bowed, the picture of defeat. I watched them go, not with triumph, but with a profound sense of sadness. It was a victory, yes, but it came at the cost of a final, definitive severing of whatever fragile ties remained with my family. As they disappeared through the revolving doors, Clara shot one last venomous glare over her shoulder, but I simply met her gaze unblinking. The aftermath was, predictably, a whirlwind of gossip and strained silence. My mother and Clara tried, initially, to spread their version of events, painting me as a heartless, arrogant son who had abandoned his family. But the story was too outlandish, too easily disproven by the truth of my success, which quickly became public knowledge. The local newspaper, covering the grand opening of the Zenith, ran a feature on me, highlighting my journey from humble beginnings to a tech and hospitality mogul. It shone a glaring spotlight on their fabricated narrative, making them look petty and delusional. My mother called me a few times, a desperate attempt to reconcile, but her words were hollow, filled with demands for financial assistance for Clara. Never a genuine apology for their actions or acknowledgement of my achievements. I politely but firmly refused, explaining that trust, once broken so spectacularly, was not easily repaired. "Clara," I heard, eventually moved out of the city, unable to face the whispers and judgment that followed her. Her life, from what I understand, never quite found its footing. My relationship with my mother never truly recovered. We occasionally exchange polite, brief messages, but the warmth and connection that should exist between a mother and son are long gone, replaced by a cold, distant respect that feels more like obligation than love. The zenith, however, flourished. It became a beacon of my vision, a symbol of what dedication and resilience can achieve. The incident with my family, though painful, served as a stark reminder of the importance of self-worth and surrounding myself with people who truly value me, not just what I can provide. It taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to draw a firm boundary, even if it means losing those you once held dear. So, that's my story. It's a messy one, filled with years of struggle and a moment of truth that forever altered my family dynamic. I often wonder if there was another way, a softer path, but then I remember the look on their faces, the cold laughter, the absolute certainty of my worthlessness in their eyes. Sometimes people need to be shown the truth, even if it hurts. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you understand why I had to do what I did. Subscribe for more stories like this, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.